Examples of clauses, Standard 9. First, she ate milk puddings as though they were jam tarts. Answer, main clause, she ate puddings. Subordinate clause, as though they were jam tarts. Explanation, subordinate clause is adverb clause of manner modifying the verb ate in the main clause. To find out the proper clause, you have to ask the question to the verb, how did she eat? How is used to identify the adverb clause of manner. Second, it seemed to introduce a ring of truth that was absent from the aunt's tales of infant life. The subordinate clause will describe the truth which is noun in the main clause, therefore adjective clause. So, the main clause is, it seemed to introduce a ring of truth, subordinate clause, that was absent from the aunt's tales of infant life. Explanation, subordinate clause is adjective clause qualifying the noun a ring of truth in the main clause. Third, they clicked against one another as she walked. Main clause, they clicked against one another. Subordinate clause, as she walked. Explanation, subordinate clause is adverb clause of time modifying the verb clicked in the main clause. Fourth, no children were ever allowed in it, so it was a great honor for Bertha to be allowed to get there. Main clause, no children were ever allowed in it. Subordinate clause, so it was a great honor for Bertha to be allowed to get there. Explanation, subordinate clause is adverb clause of reason modifying the verb were allowed in the main clause. Fifth, it made her feel silly to find that there were no flowers to pick. Main clause, it made her feel silly to find. Subordinate clause, that there were no flowers to pick. Explanation, subordinate clause is noun clause providing object to infinitive to find in the main clause. Sixth, just then an enormous wolf came prowling into the park to see if it could catch a fat little animal for its supper. Main clause, just then an enormous wolf came prowling into the park to see. Subordinate clause, if it could catch a fat little animal for its supper. Explanation, subordinate clause is noun clause providing object to infinitive to see in the main clause. Here, one can make the mistake by reading if in the sentence and one can write it as adverb clause of condition, but it is not, it is a noun clause. Seventh, I expect they are being driven to another field. Main clause, I expect. Subordinate clause, they are being driven to another field. Explanation, subordinate clause is noun clause providing object to the verb expect in the main clause. Eighth, she spoke as though she were drawing attention to a rarity. Main clause, she spoke. Subordinate clause, as though she were drawing attention to a rarity. Explanation, subordinate clause is adverb clause of manner modifying the verb spoke in the main clause. Note that here the subordinator is as though, but you have to concentrate on as, not though. Ninth, the little girl was finally saved from a mad bull by a number of rescuers who admired her moral character. Main clause, the little girl was finally saved from a mad bull by a number of rescuers. Subordinate clause, who admired her moral character. Explanation, subordinate clause is adjective clause qualifying the noun question in the main clause. 10th, it was exactly the question that the bachelor had wanted to ask. Main clause, it was exactly the question. Subordinate clause, that the bachelor had wanted to ask. Explanation, subordinate clause is adjective clause qualifying the noun question in the main clause.